aperspectival, openness, so without perspective, so that there is nobody here to take a perspective, really. It's beyond the conceptual position, so just relax more and more, just open, further open. It's not limited to any point of view. It's an all-embracing openness that does not fixate on a subject-object duality. Let's take a breath together. And just don't start meditating or anything. Just maybe even just gaze around. And just feel into your fullness. Just relax. Just a field of spacious knowing, just timeless, open. Just a nice, beautiful, sweet, open dimension of inner spaciousness that saturates the space all around. Just arriving, if you were here doing the sounding part, and just continue that openness, self-knowing. So awareness appears to shift where it's sourcing itself, right? So not so behind the eyes, just take it into the heart. Just rest into the heart. Just rest in the purity of the heart. So please right now be the presence of boundless, spacious, loving, luminous awareness knowingly. I am, and the I that I am knows that I am. Just feel into the openness, which is not the promise of future liberation. It's happening right now. Just open up to the actuality of your beingness right now. And then let's flow out, extend to each other. As soon as you, just with a soft, pure desire, just let it happen by itself. And then there is a resonance between us. No longer searching for meaning. It's the meaning is what we are. Just feel into the meaning. It feels like this. This is the meaning of our lives. Ceasing all searches. It also means ceasing all perspectives. Just like, so let's take a breath together. And there is kind of this aperspectival openness, so without perspective, so that there is nobody here to take a perspective, really. There is, but when it takes a perspective, that is then falling into your who-ness, into your personal identity. That takes perspectives on everything. So prior to taking a perspective, there's just openness. it's beyond the conceptual position. So just relax more and more. Just open, further open. It's not limited to any point of view. It's an all-embracing openness that does not fixate on a subject-object duality. So that's why I said earlier during the sounding, if you hear now, is that when we open up to this space, when we saturate the space with knowing, or realize that the space is already saturated with knowing, and everything that arises within it is one boundless, unified field. So that's the view without a view. They always talk about the view, but it's actually prior to any viewing. It's just openness view. So it's when we drop that view and that taking a perspective and taking the one that takes a perspective, we integrate multiple dimensions simultaneously without being confined to one. So now we have a openness right here, and then just from that light speed awareness, just observe everything that you are. The body arises in that field, not just the body, but the whole soma, the sphere around your body, this localized joy of being in the world, this compassionate expression with your name on it. Yeah. So feel into that. And you can kind of flow through the body where the resonance board, the resonance reflectiveness of a lifetime of feelings and emotions, just there in its colors. Allowing the body to just shine in its colorfulness, its mosaic of the true presence in the world. And let's do a little bit of I want to do a little bit of a concentration practice for a few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then open it to a little practice of non-duality, which is a big word, but I will phrase it a little in different ways so it becomes really apparent. So let's take a breath together. Just close your eyes and just direct your mind like a boat rudder in the stream of awareness. Now it's focusing. We were just doing we were just open and present. Now presence focuses and coagulates. And just rest it on the breath as it unfolds, as it rises. And stay stay connected and intimate with every subtle nuance of that breath. all the way in for its full duration, not little moments of soft distraction. Now we're practicing our metacognitive capacity, that overview of the collage of feelings, emotions, and thoughts and perceptions. So staying with the in-breath meticulously, carefully, all the way in, all the way out. And after the breath completes its cycle, after the out-breath, there will be a natural gap, a pause. This interval may be brief or spacious. Ducky, I hear you sounding. Please put your headphones on. Yeah. So this interval may be brief or spacious, and spacious. And in that little pause between the out-breath and the in-breath, feel the felt sense of what it feels like to be you in your embodiment, like a totality overview. So there's actually movement, meticulously, carefully in-breath, meticulously, carefully out-breath, and then in the pause, however long that is, depending on your need for oxygen, doesn't matter, the body opens up and hangs in space. So not the embodiment of you in bits and parts, but as a unified whole. Like the radiance of your body, the felt sense of the radiance of your body. And then when the next breath begins to rise, you follow, rising, falling, whole body awareness. Rising, falling, body hanging in space as radiance. Just a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. There are only 2 options right now. One, where you meticulously with the cycle we're gazing into right now, or we're on a chain of thoughts. No problem. Good practice, returning back to concentration, focus, building some muscle on non-distraction in our lives. In that returning, we actually strengthening our non-distraction. Just following these 3 points with unwavering attention. And if something arises, a thought or a perception, just stay with the concentration object, just returning fully to the flow of breath and awareness. And gradually this continuous presence with that free flow, it will deepen and stabilize. Let's take a breath together again, all together. Mouth open. Let the breath settle naturally, relax. Allow the mind to soften. Stop concentration, relax, just dropping open. Allow the field of awareness to open. And you can either gaze through the eyelids into the boundless openness, as the boundless openness. And or you open your eyes, gently open your gaze, rest your gaze on the surrounding space, as if that space saturates everything. Let your awareness dissolve into that vastness, and let that vastness flow into your awareness. And then a single unified field of spacious awareness emerges. So see if you can shift your perspective to mind only. Everything that is awared is all mind. Just take the all mind perspective. The open expanse of knowing and all that arises within it are inseparably one. Although some may correct that into not two. Just so the open expanse of knowing and all that arises within it are a singular, undivided reality. So the knowing and the vastness and all that appears are not separate, but movements of the same boundless wholeness. And maybe you can have the perspective that awareness arises with its knowing quality, and everything that appears in it arises from the heart, comes up, and flows out of the sense gates or the eyes, saturate the space all around. So the vast expanse and the known are just ripples of the same infinite sea of awareness. In this very moment, the vastness of knowing and all that manifests are one undivided openness. So this luminous shining of everything that arises, and the luminous shining of the knowing quality, merging, dancing. Even merging is a misdirection, as if it ever was separate, but all words are just a poetic pointing out at this unified wholeness. Let's take a breath together. And just allow everything that you are, and the gnosis, the clarity, the knowing, to be boundless, whole, and indivisible. A bright sea. And when you take that perspective, without a perspective, you become the authentic author of everything that happens in your life. Authorship. And in that shimmering field of potentiality, the wisdom energy potential is just blasting. It's just sitting there, shimmering in its immediacy. And then you can take over the functions of the mind from that perspective. It takes over the functions of the mind. It saturates all psychology and historical narrative. And it just heals all stories. Can you feel that energetic component? The componentless component? It's this shimmering potentiality. That's the guru within. Dzogchen is the purity of being, and from that all-inclusive non-perspective perspective, everything is the arising of the wisdom energies and compassion in the world. And if the habitual mind is fostering some limiting movements, just bring your gaze, gazing from beingness, gazing from the heart, Bring your gaze of the visual eyes and the heart together. You feel the felt sense. So Dzogchen is the path of embodied spaciousness. And as we together feel into that, especially in that collective resonance, as we together know that, just know it, liberation takes place. By itself. Just be there and enjoy the automaticity of the unfolding of your own liberation. Sit back, breathe, and relax. So now I'm going to read a few quotes from a 8th century Bon text, Bon Dzogchen tradition, called the Seven Mirrors of Dzogchen. Let's take a breath together and feel in the timelessness of this experience of paying attention to our beingfulness, timeless awareness, right? So don't interpret this through the habitual mind, just let it resonate in your, through timeless awareness. Allow the usual mind to dissolve a little more. And he says, and just the feeling that it's 12 centuries old, talking about timeless. Wisdom just shimmers the same in all hearts of all beings throughout all times, and through timeless awareness in time. And it says, the natural state is always integrated with your consciousness. It has never been away from your consciousness. Never, ever. In the same way, whatever arises from this nature and appears as spontaneous visions or thoughts, thoughts are also visions. Any kind of emotion or thoughts, good or bad, are called visions. Everything is like waves or reflections in water. No matter what appears in the water, it is all wet. And in the same way, whatever visions or thoughts, good or bad, arise from this nature, they are all forms of the unspeakable state. Let's take a breath together. And beyond words and letters and information and understanding, just be it. Then it goes on, nature, between parentheses, consciousness, and then Rigpa, between parentheses, awareness, Buddha nature, is taking the form of happiness or suffering, all kinds of consciousnesses, and perceptions, everything. So it says it right here. It takes the shape, it's taking the form of perception too. So that's back to the aperspectival, no perception. Just drop that too. That's really subtle. Just playfulness, see what happens. Let's take a breath. Just drop even all those little subtle wafers. Just open. The text goes on. Don't say you don't know nature or you haven't seen it. It is always together with you. It is your nature, the nature of yourself, no separation. Right? If it wasn't shining with the brilliance of gnosis, knowing, we wouldn't know our lives. So we just relax into that. Oh yeah. I'm the gnosis of my life. At that time, it looks as though you are watching nature or the thought, but if you look carefully, where's you? Where's the watcher? That is a mistake if you think there is some duality. You are integrated with nature, together with your thoughts. There is no separation between you and the thought. So take the perspective that the thought is the fabric of awareness. Like a little current in the ocean. Just wetness. Just wetness. Let's take a breath together. Yeah. So this open, spacious, oceanic view, gazing upon its own waves and currents. That perspective, without a perspective, is the path of spacious liberation. It can be seen, but who sees it? What does it see? It sees itself. We call this nature and awareness. We explain several aspects, but nature itself is an indescribable state. Sometimes we see it's empty, pure. We see it is empty, pure and clear. The purity aspect is called kadak in Tibetan. So the purity aspect is called kadak. The clarity aspect is called Rigpa, the gnosis. The aspect of unification is called Nyime, non-dual, inseparable. That's what we're playing with a little today. Let's take a breath together. Relax all perspectives. Awareness and its expression arise inseparably, vivid and immediate, as the seamless flow of being. Let's rest there, yet bright mind, fresh mind, free mind. Just a few more minutes, maybe about 7 or 8 minutes. Just take a breath, relax. The goodness of your mind does not depend on you. No, really. The beauty, loving goodness of your mind does not need you. It can saturate you if you allow it. Let's do that. Let's open that heart. Drop all those protective little barriers that were put there in very protective and caring way, but it's a misdirection of your energy. But it's a survival mechanism. Let's just drop all survival mechanisms. Be really vulnerable and realize I'm not vulnerable in the first place. What you really are can't be touched by circumstances. The goodness of your mind does not depend on you. The goodness of your heart does not get touched by circumstances, thoughts, and self-diminishing feelings, emotions, and thoughts and perceptions either. It might be veiled by the protective brick of a difficult history, traumatic currents. But don't believe that the loving light of your heart has been diminished by whatever difficulties arose in your life. So then when we really know that, just relax into that, knowing, yeah, then you're going to have to love your way through this life. So when you realize that something shifts, the texture of experience changes, and it's not just an idea, it just kind of saturates your bones. And it's not like you have a perspective of like, how is love weaving itself into my heart? No. It's the texture of your heart. It's the texture of your beingness, and then the heart as the origin, the hridayam, the heart of the soma, of the gnosis, of the luminous presence of you in the world. There's the kadak, right? The purity. The purity of what? The purity of the expression of compassion and love in the world. Alright, everybody forgiven right there. Bing! Everybody forgiven, especially that one on your seat. Of course, from the Dzogchen perspective, there was nothing ever to be forgiven about, but alright. We'll take that perspective. Let's take a breath together. Just bright mind, kind of starting to set the desire that we can have this perspective throughout the day. So the transitionless transition. Just holding that. There are countless ways of how goodness accumulates in our lives. It's not a technique. It effortlessly builds. Just allow it to happen. That's our Dzogchen practice or natural awareness practice. And the goodness just accumulates and gathers and deepens simply because you show up in this world. Especially in a collective like this, right? We facilitate each other unveiling of the innate goodness of our hearts and being fullness in the world. And then why us? God knows. Thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm not separate from God? Oh, so you know. Okay, then. All right, then. May we be the essence of healing for all sentient beings in this interconnected sea of beings. May we express primordial and innate love, happiness, and peace. May we feel deeply into the beauty and boundless wholeness of our authentic, compassionate nature. May our hearts shine with compassionate understanding in this interconnected sea of beings. May we know peace and be peace for everyone that enters our realm. We vow to stay open and connected to our innermost wholeness. Let's take a breath and take that vow. Let's stay connected today, all day today. Today is, I declare today, connected to our wholeness retreat. I don't care what you're doing today. Okay. May all beings realize that love is found through loving. May we all be together in love and acceptance. One beloved community, one family, heart to heart, where we all are just walking each other home. Yeah, where we're all just being each other home. So thank you. Let's take a last breath together. Keep the mind that don't change the perspective that is not a perspective. So so tomorrow David is here. Friday Martha will be dancing around with Jigme Lingpa. Nathan will be here on Saturday. Thank you everybody else that is here holding space. So if you go to your day, have a beautiful day. But obviously, all of you have been here before. If you can share a little bit and really communicate, not show and tell, not coming from the mind, real simple. Just like, it can be also like, oh, I didn't experience that. A non-perspective, a non-perspectival, Aperspectival. That's the word. It's new to me. Perspectives like, well, I didn't really feel that, but they're all such subtleties and are so limited by words. But I would like to hear about your practice in general. Praxis, right? How you resonate in your life now. All of you that have been, everyone in this room has a different flow in their lives. I know, because I hear you and feel you. So please share something that is coming up. It is incredibly important. And I'm going to also start a group thinking about it, where it's kind of mandatory, where you have to share. When you come into the room, you have to share. So because that's what we'll do. It's like us really together, not like one person, like I'm my focus point, like in the guiding. But we all guide each other. Just trying something, see if that will work out. So please share if something comes up. No hands, just unmute.
Question. When you're guiding, an open awareness practice, and you talked about bringing the heart and mind together and just know it. I think that's what you said. And so I wonder if you could say a little more about that. How does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a really good question, and it's like my personal identity was saying that's a bit beyond my pay grade. No. So okay, so I was kind of talking about the direct knowing. Right. I know this the knowing of that you know that you are aware, the awareness, the knowing quality of beingness that saturates all experience, and it knows itself directly, this gnosis, right? And I was facilitating that a little bit by bringing the heart and the mind together, which is a little bit redundant because the mind and the heart are already together from this perspective, but by just knowing that, kind of realizing my heart and mind are the expression of what I am in the world together, then we can feel this shimmering knowing quality and this purity, the kadak that we talked about, and then you just know it, right? You just know that you are, right? You've practiced enough that you get that knowing part, right? I know it. I just know it. And then there doesn't need to be any movement. It's this knowing of knowing, and that kind of shimmers, and that's the openness, the gateway, and that's where then the wisdom the wisdom energies. This is like, I'm quoting somebody, I don't remember, the gates to the wisdom energies open. That's what I often say because I think that's so amazing. And so so you can just feel into your heart. So when you bring awareness into the heart, like we often guide, that's basically it. I just said it a little different, and you kind of picked up on it and go like, oh, that's a little new. But if you kind of relax into it, go like, oh yeah, right. It's usually it's all the same stuff, right? Basically, the heart is the origin of awareness in the world. It has a compassionate wisdom energies, shimmer, shimmer, embrace everyone. We're done, something like that. You know.
Thank you.
No. Is there any? I mean, is that anything? Did that help at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing Farsa Sattva on Tuesdays. That's really nice. Very authentic. I love coming.
Thank you. I like doing it.
I can tell. And we can hear you so clearly these days. Bonnie has a new mic and it really helps. Okay, let's take a breath. Thank you, Bonnie.
I see David unmuted, but I wanted to say something.
Thank you for helping. Yeah, David, next. Go ahead, Glenda.
Oh. I was sitting in my chair wondering about something this morning, and then you talked right about it.
So when did this wandering happen? During the sounding part or after that?
No. I dozed off and didn't make it to sounding, and so I'm sitting in my chair. I woke up and I was wondering about if my awareness had one leg in the openness and one leg in the physical world, whether it was straddling the two.
Well, yeah.
And then my awareness said, "Oh no, they're together." And you said we inhabit multiple dimensions without being confined to one. And see, that just kind of has stabilized where I'm trying to live, where I'm living. I'm walking around in this open expanse, but yet thoughts and feelings are showing up, and I'm watching my body. Well, not watching, yeah, I'm aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing. So the physical's combining with the openness, and I'm not separate a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Is what I realize is going on, like it used to be.
Well, it's never separate. We just slowly unveiling that realization of not being separate, right? That's what I really was playing with today, like not separate from anything, this non-dual view. But then when anybody, even I hear non-dual, there's always a little contraction because like it really feels apparent that I can really get a concussion by falling on this table. It's pretty hard out there. So,
Yeah.
but what you said, then you said one leg in the boundless openness, or in beingfulness, or in the absolute, and one leg in this world. I'm paraphrasing, forgot exactly how I said it,
Yeah.
but that sounded good.
Yeah.
And I realized that you used the word leg as a metaphor, Yeah, so yes. And then you even dissolve that kind of like, oh yeah, I'm here and there, and yes and no, right? In that moment. Yes. Yeah. Right. So that's why you open up to that openness, and now we're talking about, and then you saturate the usual psychology and the history of who you are and in the body and in this world with this wholeness. And then we can ultimately, I used to say, the ego, the personal identity is put at service of the boundless wholeness. But now we're talking even that timeless awareness takes over the functions of the mind and can express itself directly. That's what we are trying to do then when we do this talking thing. And I could still feel, I was just talking, and I went like, oh yeah, don't be a hypocrite. So right now I'm just like, it's just really straight, right? Just really speaking from that openness. You can tell when you kind of come like, oh, I'm coming from my psychology and it's a little tight. You get very good at discerning that, right? But I digress a little bit. But I think everything you said sounded just like really, like you're right with it. It's great.
Well, it's awareness that seems to be awakening, that knowing awareness is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that, I have to go afterwards a little bit. Even Lama Surya said that he regretted calling his most successful book "Awakening the Buddha Within." He regretted that because he said it's already awake. Right. So yes,
but I'm not aware of it.
No, yeah, right. So how are we using the word awake right now? As so yes. So we play, but that's nice to realize. Oh yeah. So I'm awakening to the fact that I'm awake already. Something.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Timo.
Thank you, Glenda. Lovely sharing as always, David. I thought. Did you want to say something?
Not really, but I will.
Please do.
So you're talking about forming another session, another group, the session time, and asking everyone to share like a talking circle, right?
Yeah, well, like we meditate. And then everybody kind of speaks from that space. So again, I started responding to you, and it kind of went like, oh yeah, this is from like habitual pattern, and then you just let it fall open, and then I was thinking about that, to doing that, where we all kind of.
I'll just say that I've been in groups where we would get together on a regular basis and. Pass the share, however you want to call it, and it's a really powerful way of building community.
That's what we're trying to always create in this moment too, right? But it's like, and then it's going to be a little bit like sometimes we might go, well, that sounds really like you're coming more from memory and like patterns. It might get really simple, and it's a little scary because when we come from patterns, we may sound like, oh, we know something, but you have to actually drop that too, and you might just say like, well, I didn't feel it today, or I don't have words for it, but we can hear just in the melody of your voice that it's coming straight from your heart, and it's so nebulous. It's so difficult sometimes to describe, and then when you suddenly allow it, it just goes. And then when that happens, when we start expressing it, everybody gets liberated in that moment.
Yeah. Right.
And that's super important. And so, I'm thinking about that. And then we might say like, or maybe I'm hosting it. I go like, well, that sounded. So I don't want to pick on anyone, but when Ed shares so beautifully from a history of beautiful paying attention to all these traditions, he has so many things to teach us. And then I sometimes go, hey, Ed, can you now talk this from your heart? And then he goes, right? And it's like, oh, and then we all feel the difference. It's both beautiful. There's the relative beauty of it, and then there's the direct. And I want to do the one that everything is direct. And then we point at each other, going, no, that's this information. This, you mind I'm picking on you, Eduardo?
I picked on him last night. He's still.
It counts for us all. It counts for us all. Yeah.
Well, that becomes part of the process. Whether if you're just coming from a place of awareness, or you're coming from your knowledge base, or either your history, or sometimes you just want to express that I'm grateful to be here today, right? And
if that comes authentically up from timeless awareness in the heart, that will be that's what we wanted, right? So
yes.
And we might go around and I will call on people, and then you go like, oh shit, it's my turn, and then you go like, I'm grateful to be here today. I don't, I feel a little contracted. I can't find it, but that sounded authentic. Whatever comes up,
Right. Whatever comes up becomes part of is the open awareness.
Yeah, and
it's saying there's no difference between heart and mind, because you get into the process, and the process unfolds. Yeah. Yeah,
and that will get its own life. And so I'm thinking about the problem is this: we already kind of a small group in principle. I think the group that comes here, the most people that come here, the active cycle of people that come through this room is maybe about 32, 35 people, and we already offer so much. So, but I also feel like this group is like a place where anybody can come in, and then when we go like, well, these people are like, it's a little difficult when you go like, all right, everybody is also welcome in the other group. The only thing is you have to participate. So it has a threshold in itself, because some people go like, oh, I'm not comfortable in that. But then if anybody were to think that, you can say that now or contact me. I would like to know that, right? Because maybe we can figure out a way that you do feel safe, So, yeah. And I also talked about having a concentration group, but wow, we offer so much, right? But at the same time, if only 4 people show up, that's already really amazing. And I can feel I want to liberate, we all want to liberate the whole world. So sometimes you go like, why don't we have 30,000 people here? It's like, but then there's a difference between a group and a crowd. A crowd has a whole different dynamic. And some people say anything over 30 is a crowd. Somebody else I heard say 80, and I don't know. I think so. Everything is valid, different sizes, and blah blah. So anything, please. We have a few more minutes, so if anybody is feeling something from this, yes, Terry, yeah.
I just want to ask a question about. Sometimes, and I think you use the word contracted. I don't know if that can equal negativity. Because sometimes, if there's a veil of negativity prevailing on a particular day, maybe you wouldn't want to share that and be Debbie Downer. You know what I mean?
Right. If you feel, yeah, that's really real good point. Thank you. You're talking about when we're sharing and you don't feel particularly nice in that moment, and you even want to be left alone, then you could authentically say, well, today I feel a little contracted, or I feel a veil of, I don't feel so great, so I don't feel like sharing. What? Go ahead.
Is that what contracted equals? Like this, like all those beautiful words about love is only found through loving, and all those things that are beautiful. Sometimes they don't apply to what's happening in the day, in the moment.
No, but it's loving won't be all. So what is happening won't always be loving, but what knows the happening is love.
Okay.
Right?
That's
And
that's
then
great.
then that what knows the love might be veiled by what is happening and does not know it's love in that moment. But because you are doing these practices and you have encountered the beautiful kadak, purity, love of your heart, it can't be unseen. So now you can go, okay, my life right now, what is happening is shitty, and yet I know that I'm love. Right? So then you just open up to that, because those shitty circumstances need the light of love clearly, and
Yeah.
it might mean that you've heard me say that before, that it's not also lovey sweetie in that moment. It might be that you pull yourself out of the situation or push somebody out of the situation for the purpose of love of the greater good of all beings, right? These circumstances, what are happening, are not good right now. There's a polarity in this situation, so I remove myself, or I bring myself in, or I express love, or I don't speak my love. It might be something fierce and strong sometimes, because we are not just soft little lovey things. And I talk a lot about love, but love is also the protector of innocence, and it's fierce, and it's fuck it, I'm taking care of this situation, and I need to be strong right now, right? And that is love too. Right? So it might not sound like you're loving, but make sure that you're connected to love, that your fierceness is not coming from anger. Right? Now I'm coming from anger. Now not all the circumstances go completely to shit. Right? So you just, so, and then you learn to navigate that. I know you can do that. I know you have that capacity, right? And then sometimes we don't. Sometimes we mess up, right? And then you fall on your face. I was very unskillful. I was very unkind. And then you just wake up and go like, oh yeah, right, that wasn't so great. You forgive yourself. Don't even need the words forgiving. Just returning to that essence, right? That's already forgiving right there. Oh, boom, there. The movement is forgiveness. The movement is love. Back into that. And yeah, so don't worry about that it doesn't look like love, but stay connected to love, and however that feels like in that moment. That connection has also different colors just by the way the circumstances are. But if you go deeper and deeper into the heart of hearts of the loving wisdom expression of your heart, that is always the purity of loving being. And stay connected
So how
to
does contracted come in there? When you say
Bye,
contracted,
Bonnie.
What does contracted in that situation look like?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm quiet because I'm just opening a little. Well, we use contracted a little bit for when it gets really tight. It's basically when we are coming from contracted into a personal identity, into an ego, into a history of psychological difficulties, influenced by the circumstances that Terry talked about. So I'm contracted, kind of not open. We talk. So yeah. So it's the. Oh, all right. I'm having a difficult time. So
no, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So open. Yeah. No. Open. Yeah, so we talk about the openness. So when we're open, and when you're in your psychology and like, oh, what about me? My little what about me mind I talk about, that is contracted, right? So it's like, oh, I'm coming from anger. I'm coming from contracted. It's so it's concentric circles of realization. First, the first realization is I'm not my thoughts, feelings, emotions, and perceptions. Then the next one, I'm not my personal identity. Then you kind of go more non-dual. I'm timeless. And it's like, oh yeah, that just opens. And so the most contracted is me in my poor psychology, right? Something like that.
Thank you.
And then the more open spheres, they're like Russian doll spheres, they saturate all the inner ones too. So it's perfectly okay to have sometimes we use anger, but anger now transforms into the expression of protector of innocence in the world, coming from love. So we can still use that fierceness, it can still be there, right? But it's now all at surface of the so the once we open up to the larger concentric circles of awakening, they're all saturated ones on the inside. And so all of us have that now. So yeah, sometimes we're in our psychology or what our historic narrative coming from our ancestors, parents, whatever. And then you just saturate all that. And in that process, you also free all those that got you to this contraction. Right, the contractions of all those ancestors and all the beings around you that made you contract, they're also set free in that ripple effect. Yeah. So yeah, does anybody else feel like there's something else to be said about contraction that I'm missing?
Well, I don't know if I would add it because that's what you're missing. I was gonna really come from here, and then as soon as you put that little addendum on it, sounds like I'm gonna be saying something different. So hang on a second. To me, what I would want to just add, Timo, is it's not just a heady sort of, I'm either spacious or I'm in my ego, but that it's actually, there is an embodied quality. Like you can feel, if somebody says, think of something that you don't like to eat, you almost can feel like a contraction, right? There's like a little bit of...
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
And so when like imagine you really have to eat it, you can almost like feel everything contracting. And then if you think of something like you really love to do, there's like an opening, yeah? And it's the same with like coming from what about me mind, as Timo says, or like just like I'm consumed with all the stuff that's going on with Tina and in the world, and it feels more tight and contracted than when I'm resting in this awareness. So there is like an embodied, it's not just something that we're saying.
Yeah.
So that's all I would.
Yeah, it's not just metaphorical. We actually feel the embodiment of the contraction and of the embodiment of the opening. We can feel both directions, and it starts breathing. And there's nothing bad about contracting and opening, because that's the way of the universe. It contracts, right? And then it opens, and then we open more and more, and then you start remembering, open, and maybe you hold it open a lot, but once in a while it contracts. And then we get to enjoy the joy of the decontracting. And that's maybe one of the purposes of life, that like we get to be in this flow of opening and closing. And then it appears to be, when it starts waking up into that knowing of itself, it seems to then become much more interested in being open.
And you can start to tell, and like, oh wait a minute, you're like the body will almost sort of give you the hint. Like, oh yeah, look at that. Wait a minute, I was contracted here.
Yeah.
So like when I'm talking, when I think when a lot of people talk, if you really attend, you start noticing, I'm getting up into the head, and it feels a little tighter than when you like go, okay, wait a minute, I can come from the heart.
Yeah.
And it immediately starts to feel
very beautiful, yeah. And it's not a small thing. Speaking in public is freaking scary at times. Now, therefore, that's why you want to have a group where we already are. I mean, you could all imagine, some of us are right now, I don't know if I even want to talk right now, but you could talk here easier than you could imagine some other places in public where you would speak was like, no freaking way I would open my mouth here. And some of you are like, maybe nearly open your mouth right now. Well, all of you have spoken already, so. But, so you have to create that safe space. But when you know that everybody is in that open-hearted space, then you know, it doesn't matter what you say. You hear the authenticity, right? And it's like, I even saw when you did that little pause where you shifted into like, and we all noticed that, and we feel that in our hearts, right? You went to like, and then you spoke, Tina. It was like,
oh yeah, pointedly, and that's what I was even saying. Like in life, we often forget to come from here.
Yeah,
so not
very
even
much.
Speaking in public or with a group or on Zoom, but just like. Speaking seems to bring it out, where it's like you could be so present and coming from a different place, and then you got to talk to somebody, and it's like immediately like, I'm going to get to talk.
Yeah, you feel that, huh? You start talking in public, and then you want to come. I have some cool patterns here. Like I experience it every time I'm playing the music. Right, I can feel like I have some shit I can play here. That's really cool, and I have to keep it like, oh no, I just want to keep coming. And then it appears to be of wanting to be really calm and textural, and then once in a while a little melody comes up. So you can just show the texture of your heart in this space, and just go like, yeah, today I feel particularly awake, and my heart feels, I feel a little bit of a contraction, but my heart is quite open. That's about all I have to say. But if you were to say that is in the collective resonance, we all, liberation takes place for all of us. This is like the most beautiful evolution of human beings. What we're working on is what we wish to happen for all humans, right? This is it. And so we're practicing now on behalf of all beings. I got goosebumps right now. Right? It's really a big deal. And we actually doing it. And by you sitting here and listening from the open-hearted space, that's just as important, right? So don't feel like you're lacking because you're not sharing today or next week or you didn't last week. Absolutely doesn't matter. But just be here in this, like really open, and then there's a resonance between us in that moment, right? It's amazing.
I want to say, yay, Tina. That's what came to me is, before this daily meditation where I started coming here, I was not aware my body was tight and contracted. There was not the awareness of that. But through meditation, of learning to just let, in my mind, thoughts come and go, I just kind of relax. Well, then I can feel, hold it, my body just tightened up. So it's the signal, usually before I recognize what the hell was I effing thinking, And then I realized, oh man, the mind had just judged something, right? But the body knew it. But anyway. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you all.
Yeah. I usually feel a tight when I'm nervous, or when you have like a bit of anxiety, we feel that around our heart usually, right? So it's that tension field, and then what is the most painful about it is because we wish it to not be there. Right, it's just like, so then you get that feedback loop of like, and then it feeds itself, right? It gets stronger just from itself. It's not even informed by, because often you wake up, why do I feel so freaking much anxiety? There's like nothing going on, everything is okay. Well, then there's some historic thing, it's entrenched in your body. But then the more and more you start becoming aware of that, then you realize that the kadak, the purity of that anxiety, is also pure, and then because it's never going to go away, and then it can actually turn into the bliss of being. It becomes blissful, or it will have different expressions, and then you start noticing, oh, it's just a sweet helper, right? It's just a survival mechanism, like Peter is a tiger in the bush, right? But and then it goes, but then that is just the misdirection of the energy. And then when it converts, it becomes actually the din of freedom, right? It actually reminds you of like, oh, yeah, right. And then ultimately it will transform. So when you're working with anxiety or other difficult embodied mind states, don't wish it away. Just really become very intimate with it. So in mindfulness, we place our awareness really there and learn it. But now with Dzogchen, when you do it both, you become familiar with it while holding the fast expanse, right? Simultaneous mind. And then you will notice that over time, oh yeah, right, it's just energy. And then it's going to, it might even be like a beautiful experience. This anxiety has transformed right now and liberated itself. Maybe today, maybe not tomorrow. It's going to go like that, Don't hold on. Oh, I feel better now. And then you start holding on, and now you're falling there again. Life has anxiety in it too. It's a full-time job staying alive, and that sometimes has a little bit of anxiety in it. Yes, anybody holding back? Are we good? Yeah. Let's take a breath together. Thank you all for being with us. This is really beautiful that we do this. I'll be with you soon. Tomorrow David will be here. Have a good time.